So this is the same Tesla coil of my previous video. In that video it was along other projects, but instead I think that this coil deserves a separate documentation with a separate video. Anyways, the differences between my previous video and this one is that now the tube has been crafted, let's say crafted in a particular way to insulate the pins, and I'll show you how in a moment. And I'm using a bigger MOT. This is the biggest MOT that I have. Anyways, I'm still using a really wimpy tube and having a performance with sparks of 23 centimeters. And about the staccato, here it is. You'll find this circuit in the description of the video. And let's see a quick list of the specs and then we'll test it. But how is it possible to use a tube so wimpy for making big arcs, let's say big arcs, quotes on quotes, because there are bigger ones around, especially on the internet. And the trick is apparently that you have to train the tube for high voltage, because the first times that you raise the power on the Variac, on the coil, the tube will make popping sounds and flashes and arcs inside. But those arcs in the vacuum are because of sharp spots in the metal structures. And those sharp spots, exactly because of the arc and the high temperature, will be rounded after the arc happens. So you crank down the Variac immediately, because otherwise the hot spot makes another arc and it can ruin the tube. But after that, after waiting for cooling down, you can rise again the Variac and pass that spot, that level of power, because now the sharp spots are rounded, and you can do and will have to do this procedure like, I don't know, at least 10 times to train the tube for high voltage. So this is what I did with the tube. Okay, in this coil, the voltage, especially on the anode pin, was so high that it sparked from the anode pin to the nearby pins that were grounded. Okay, it wasn't possible to use an original socket, an original novel socket, because it wasn't possible to modify it. So I soldered some wires on the pins of the tube, all the pins. A lot of pins were grounded, must be grounded, because there is the triode that we don't need. And on two pins of the tube, the anode and the grid 2, I soldered two wires and also slid two small pieces of silicone tubing. This silicone tubing was thick enough, and under the silicone tubing I put some thermal compound, the ceramic thermal compound. That's basically aluminum oxide mixed with silicone oil. That stuff is that, and it's electronics type, not CPU or GPU type, because the electronics type is not runny, it will not drip. This way it's completely insulated, like the glass is longer, but instead of being glass, it's silicone. I bend the pins outwards, and so they were pretty far from the remaining pins, and this worked very well. And this is the final result. Sorry if it's a bit bent, but it was so fragile, because these pins can't be soldered pretty well, because the alloy of these pins is dumet, and basically can't be soldered. You must use a socket. So the solderings were made, but they were fragile, so I had to touch the tube with a really gentle force, and it came up a bit bent, like the Tower of Pisa, but I'm Italian, so... And I think there's still room for improvement, using maybe a higher power than simply a MOT with a diode, maybe using a voltage multiplier, but I don't like much that solution. I prefer just the MOT with the 1 Hz staccato and max Variac. The tube is popping a bit, but not much, and especially the pins are not sparking anymore. Anyways, thanks for watching my video, and bye!